Hello, just one sec, guys. I'm going to call the man, Scott Almes. Just one sec, okay? I'm going to call him live. Here we go. Live call. Hi, Scott.
Hey,
Wait, there you are. So I'm just going to show everybody this is for real. That's the Scott Almes right there. He's tiny, he's epic, and he's literally tiny and epic today. This is weird. I'll pull that out. I know this is weird, but I've been having lots of issues with technology today, guys and girls. So this is what we got. Thank you so much for coming along and being with us today, Scott. How are you feeling today?
Well, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. What's the time there?
It's just 8 a.m. Not bad at all.
8 a.m. on the button.
How about you?
It's 11 o'clock at night on Friday. It's still Friday here, but it's 11 o'clock at night. So I feel like I might draw a bow tie on my hand here for you so that you look even snazzier. But so for those of you who don't know, and thanks for coming in, everyone who's coming in. Yes, I'm holding up a phone. Okay, just deal with it. And if you'd like to support Grail Games and give us more technology, you could buy 50 games this weekend. Visit what is it called? Madigo-friends.myshopify.com. The man we're talking to. Scott's a game designer. My name is David. If you haven't met me yet this weekend, I am the publisher of Grail Games. And Scott's been doing some work for us, and we thought it would be nice to have a chat with him right here, floating in like it's, you know, some futuristic thing. So how about you start, Scott, by introducing yourself? What are some of the games people may know and love of yours, and who are you?
Yes, thanks. So my name is Scott Almes. I'm a freelance game designer. I'm probably most known for my Tiny Epic series, which started off with Tiny Epic Kingdoms and has most recently been Tiny Epic Pirates. Some other fun games I've designed, of course, Boomerang, which we'll be talking about today. Also Harbor, Martian Dice, Great Dinosaur Rush, and the completely adorable Best Treehouse Ever is sampling of some of the ones I've worked on.
I must tell you about the Best Treehouse Ever. I don't know if in the US you've got a series of books called the 13-story Treehouse, but these are kids' books that are here in Australia. They're the biggest sellers. People here know what I'm talking about. And whenever I see your game, The Greatest Treehouse Ever, I think there's a tie-in that needs to happen. But yeah, I think the first, and it's really cool how you're able in your design process so often to distill a big idea into a small box. And in fact, sometimes when I demo Boomerang, I say it's Tiny Epic Australia. But anyway, so how did you start gaming and in turn designing?
So definitely been a gamer of some sorts all my life. I mean, family played a lot of board games growing up. Big gamer for sure. When I was like in middle school and high school, around middle school, high school time, also got into RPGs. I was a dungeon master for D&D campaign for quite a while, and then D&D kind of led to, and then I think a lot of people on the call probably know what that story goes on. All of a sudden, your game collection goes from 1 game to 2 games to 10 games to,
and they don't know me very well. And I said, I've got a few board games in the next room because I had some kids there playing games, and they said, oh yeah, let me see. And they went in to see the games and they literally dropped dead from shock and started taking photos and get in front of games. I want to take a photo of you in the games. But anyway, hey, just to set you in history, when you said you played a lot of video games growing up, what system are we talking about?
So let's see, when my first system was just regular Nintendo, classic Super Mario Brothers, things like that. And then jump between PC and Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, and then Xbox. So, but first one was Nintendo.
Yeah, totally the same for me. Totally the same. So, do you think over time? So, what was the first game you ever released or that you designed? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I kind of count two in that category because managing airships and trains, delivering has a really cool two-phase delivery system that I'm super proud of in a fluctuating market. And then I also signed merchandise right afterward. Merchandise was released, which was a really cool moment. Actually, like having a game the first time I went to a game convention of that size. So those are kind of the first two things that kicked it off. That would have been back in 2000.
10 years.
Yeah.
Gee. So
10 crazy years of gaming.
You've probably got, I don't know, 20 games under your belt by now, I'm guessing.
Oh, it's actually it's close to 40 or 45.
Wow.
Released, and then another like 20 or so are in the queue.
When you say you're a freelance designer, how much of your time?
I am a part-time designer. So I, for my day job, I run kind of everything I do is product development in one way, shape, or form. So yeah, by day, working at that innovation lab, and then after I close the laptop for the day, I switch over to my other laptop and start designing some board games.
Wow.
It's fun. I mean, it's designing games is just so utterly fulfilling, just creatively, and also when you develop something, you get to play with like friends, and you get to see people around the world playing your games, and just how cool is that? I mean, I've gotten notes from fans who just love playing the games with their kids or playing with their family, and it just I mean, it's just awesome.
That is so good. Do you think that over the years, because we're leading up to talking about Boomerang, which is a newer game from you, and there's something even newer we'll talk about, do you think you've evolved as a designer? Is your process, your ethos still pretty similar from back at 2010, 2009 when you were starting out, or have you really changed? I mean, has Tiny Epic changed the way you design at all? I'm wondering.
Games just aren't going to cut it. That's one big change I would say is like I have a much better job of being able to tell like with development I can get this where it needs to go, or whether this is just a lost cause and it's time to like scrap a game. Because I mean, certainly for any designer, like the games they see released is just it's like that top 10% of the iceberg. There's just tons of failed designs, and I feel like earlier in my career I focused a lot on trying to lift that iceberg out of the water to get things that were clearly just not going to cut it out there, and just kind of beating a dead horse with some of the designs. So I think I've gotten better there. One thing that I've definitely had a lot more opportunity to like explore different genres and things like that since then. Like, I mean, the Tiny Epic games are definitely its own animal. The small box, big feel games are its own thing. But designing some family games or big economic games, and very just kind of fun to stretch out my design skills and continue to try something new. It's a little bit about my own design personality. I'm always trying to like stretch out the boundaries a little bit, which is kind of why I do like an innovation lab for my day job too. Is I'm always
a tough lesson to learn. This baby that I've been working, I don't know if baby's the right term, but this project I've been working on for a long time, it needs to have a rest. It needs to go in a drawer. It's an important lesson. I think that me as a publisher, I find lots of links with your story. And certainly I'm getting better at picking games that will do better on the marketplace. So yeah, it's a process. You evolve at anything that you do. Hey, just to round out this first third of the interview, where we're going to talk about you as a person, just let us know what sort of games do you like to play, board games, and do you have any designers you really look up to? Maybe emulate is a strong word, but do you model yourself after anyone in any way?
Yeah. So the ones I like to play, I mean, I love the current rise of like smart kind of like abstracty games like Azul and things like that. I love streamlined economic games. Smartphones, but one that came out that's just been delightful to play. Always love a good two-player game. My wife and I, that's the main mode. As far as like a designer I continue to look up to, I'd probably say it would be Freedom and Increase, just because I love not only Power Grid is likely my favorite game of all time, but I just so appreciate the breadth of his designs, because not only does he have games like Power Grid, but he also has like these fantastic solo games, from fairly casual games to heavier Euro games, and he always seems to be experimenting in some ways. Like, you can see that in evidence with his very quirky and different 504 that has 504 different ways to play the game. I appreciate that he's always trying to push something new, and he's not just going back to his old standards again and again.
I think that's a great look up to somebody who is constantly pushing the boundaries and not just retreading old ground. Yeah, wow. I wish I could have his hair, but anyway.
Well, me too, but
hey, but they're launching in Europe formally next week, I think, or no, first week in November, and then it'll be and then in the US shortly after that. The problem is there was a big upfront demand in Europe, so not many copies are going to make it over the water this time around, but we're looking to print again very soon. So let us know how. Well, why don't you first tell us that?
Yeah, so we mentioned Boomerang came in 3 editions. I'll speak to kind of the first one, then we can expand from there. So Boomerang Australia is the first one. It is we'll call it a draft and write game. So roll and write games has been the big thing recently. This is one where you actually draft cards, and everyone has their own little score pad that they'll be filling out. The theme about traveling around Australia. Personally, I love travel, ocean and travel, and all the game conventions, being missed this year, really hurting my travel bug that I always have. So one of the reasons Boomerang is because I love traveling. Australia has been a place I've been actually curious to travel for, and not having that opportunity yet, I just explored it in a game, because why not? It's one is like during development, I knew I wanted to have a map of Australia that you kind of explored around, like that roll and write style, and I chose drafting as the kind of core mechanics drive it, just because with the Boomerang part of it, it feels thematically you're just passing cards around and cards are coming back, and it felt super on the nose to call it that, and with that mechanic, but once you have
watching us this weekend know all about Boomerang. But yeah, that was a great summary. It is a draft and write, and as soon as people play it, they get it. In fact, I was just playing a game with someone who were just demoing another game, and he said, "Make sure you tell Mr. Almes," yes, he called you Mr. Almes, that my dad loves Boomerang. So edition, which you can see behind me, guys. Great new art from Kerry Aitken, and the 3 editions are all slightly different. Was that easy, difficult, annoying, frustrating?
It gives you a reason to kind of own each one of them, and each one their special flavor. So it's other countries we game, but it's also kind of fun to explore your own, which is why it's great that we have Australia, Europe, and the USA edition all at the same time. But it's fun because coming up with a couple new quirks for them gives each game its own little flavor, like coast scoring, and in USA, that's a very USA thing, like a coast to coast road trip. So it feels right in with the travel thing. So it's fun, and also the challenge was making the changes slight enough so they felt different, but also not that each box was a completely new rule set, because for this particular series, that's not really the flavor we wanted to go with, like X. So it's easy to learn. This is a game for everybody. I mean, you mentioned family members who don't play any other games. This is one that you can play with them. You can enjoy it with your own game group. It's a great casual game, but it's one that kind of anyone can pick up and play.
Yeah, in fact, Rodney in the chat just said how much he loves it. Thanks, Rodney. But what you just said about traveling, it's funny. I mean, obviously what attracted me first to the first Boomerang was that it was set in my country, because that was so novel. There aren't many games at all set in Australia, and it was nice to play a game set in Australia, and I've yet to play another one, to be honest. Oh, an old one called Kangaroo, actually. But 4-2 game, and he said it was because he missed when he lived in Europe, and he wants to go back. So traveling is definitely something we all wish we could be doing, but also maybe we're longing a bit for home as well, sometimes anyway. So I had a question during the week that I have to ask. Is there another, and I know the answer, but you answer it. Is there another perhaps potential for more boomerangs in the future?
There certainly is, and I'm guessing the way you queued out that question, I'm permitted to talk about it. So we're looking at developing a boomerang for traveling around China.
Yeah.
And this has been a fun one too. Actually looking at the possibility of having it even play up to 5 players. We'll see if that works out development wise, and all the other things that go into those decisions. But yeah, it's another fun one that a lot of people have been interested in. Is it like where a lot of my games are made? That'd be super fun. But yeah, it's another place that we're going to explore that I think will capture a lot of people's travel bugs. And yeah, definitely started development on that, and fingers crossed we'll get way through.
Yeah, so definitely, if you missed that, so China's definitely on the cards, literally. And we've had requests for other places. Someone's just asked, is Australian themes an upcoming trend in board games? And someone replied, well, there's a game about Anzac Day coming soon. People overseas may not know what Anzac Day is, but I actually played that game, Rodney. I played a prototype, Rodney. So if you backed it on Kickstarter, yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so Boomerang, amazing. We hope it's going to blow the socks off everybody as it fully releases, all 3 of them. But we're also here to quickly chat about, a bit earlier than this time tomorrow, I'm doing a big chat that I can't wait for, where I'm going to launch about 6 new, this guy over here. So Mr. Almes, you can be the person to announce the name of the game and what it is, how you play, and its theme.
Yes, we'll be releasing a game called Pond Valley. So this is a much bigger economic game, so it's going to have very, very little resemblance to Boomerang. This is a big box, meaty economic game for gamers out there. The theme is running a new startup in Silicon Valley, so one of the startups is a little bit of a passion of mine, and it's only a matter of time before I make a game about it. And so in this game, each person's running their own company. You're going to be developing brand new high technology products and competing head to head with the other competitors or with the other companies. One of the things I'm proud about how this game works is it does a really cool way of actually simulating what it's like to release a product first, compete with other companies coming right out into the market, because there's going to be constant pull and push of releasing new products, and then once a competitor product gets out there, your influence in the marketplace is going to diminish. And actually, all using an example, we all use Google a lot during our day, but Google was not the first search engine. It was very much considered kind of that second mover category that saw where the first ones failed, came in and just top of it. And it takes a lot of inspiration from some of the dynamics that actually go into forming a startup and starting up that company. So you're going to be competing for employees, like the big technical heads. You're going to be competing for venture capital money in order to continue to fund and keep your lights on. You're going to be constantly trying to time the release of products correctly. You're going to be invention of the products is another cool mechanic in the game, because it's has a polygon, like an oddly shaped box that you can fill out with these technology blocks any way you want. But as soon as you invent something, all the other people have to follow the same model that you've done. So you actually have a chance to kind of invent things using those fun Tetris blocks that are just a joy to play with too. So that's kind of your 2-minute tour of Silicon Valley. It's what I'm super excited about coming out.
That was a great overview, and I'll just be the media Euro-y economic-y game, right? That has polyominoes in it, right? Whoa, that's cool, right? It's really cool. As soon as I played it, I thought, this is creative, this is different, this is special. I signed it after one play. I wanted to sign it after one play. It was just so good. And you know what also is really cool about this is Scott over here has designed an amazing solo mode for this game that I think is possibly the best solo mode I've ever played for a heavier game. It feels, it's very challenging. It adapts, it changes each time, but it's not a rules bear. It's quite easy to manage, and it's really prototype, but it's a bit hard. My hands are a bit full, but tomorrow night my time. How did you, so I know that you work in the industry, but was it hard to create a game, Silicon Valley, that wasn't so dry, that didn't feel like work, that still had some fun? Was that a challenge when you were designing the game?
Yeah, so it was definitely a matter of trying to focus on like the dramatic moments that happen and like the push and pull. Having worked with startups before, I've gotten to know a little bit about like just the struggles they go through about like chasing the right venture capital money. What happens when actually things start to go out of business, or when they have to dump products into those like have basically only those key moments on it. So it feels like you're really going like getting a snapshot of the life of this company as it's growing up, and also the overall goal of shooting to become like that $1 billion unicorn company that they like to call it. It's pretty easy to get just into like a dry math problem on it, but that's something I want to avoid as much as possible. Just focus on those big moments, and also the customer or the interaction with the other players, especially when things like you're competing for the different employees, and whenever you're actually like when you release a product, it dramatically changes what other people might have in play. Especially like if I released one product and you released a competitive product, like you just drastically changed what my company's outlook is going to be for the next year. So, yeah.
At first glance, it looks like a multiplayer solitaire type of a Euro game thing. But once someone releases a product, that totally changes what I was going to do, because I don't want them to have the only product of that type in the... Being a second mover is better. There's bells.
Yeah, there are bells.
And and the most innovative or the most interesting thing for me is that launching of a product, because using polyominoes to represent the code or the intellect or the blueprint almost of what we're putting out into the market is not only a fun puzzle. People want to do it, guys. They have to copy that. They have to put it out the exact same way. And they may not have been building towards that. They may not have had the pieces. So it's a really interesting game. And I love the thematics that they really merge with the mechanics in it. I can't wait for people to see it. And they'll be seeing it soon. The art will be beginning definitely within the next month or so. And I can't wait for people to see it.
Yeah, so I had a game called Cosmic Colonies that released that had polyominoes.
That was a leading question. I got it in the post today. I got a mail today. I can't wait to open it. It looks, but it's really different. Would you say that's a lighter game?
Yeah, it's definitely a lighter game. It's more like that casual.
In quotation marks. But you're really branching out, and I know from what you said before, that's not all you are as a designer. You've designed many different things, but Silicon Valley will certainly show people who aren't aware that you are also a great designer of heavier, longer games as well. So what's next for Scott besides Silicon Valley?
Yeah, so Silicon Valley is definitely what I'm super excited about. And my upcoming game, So You've Been Eaten, which will be always something new going on.
That's so great. I can't wait for So You've Been Eaten. I think I told you that. It just looks stunning. It's Kwanchai Moria, I think, did the art for that one.
Correct, yeah. He did an awesome job.
And the story of how you came up with that. I mean, just like, I guess, Silicon Valley, you're very good at taking something you know from real life and turning it into an experience that we can all enjoy on the table. And that's not something all designers can do. Many designers are in the abstract realm or the farming worker placement realm, or whatever it is that they do. All right. Well, I'll just give 10 seconds if anyone in the chat has any questions. Thank you so much for joining us today, Scott. And tomorrow, for those of you who didn't hear me in my rambling, I will talk more about Silicon Valley. But thank you so much, Scott. And looks like end.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Good job.
All right. Thanks so much. This is Scott Almes, Mr. Tiny Epic, designer of Boomerang Australia, Boomerang Europe, Boomerang USA, perhaps Boomerang China, and of course, Silicon Valley, coming to you from Spiel. And I'll see you tomorrow in about 22 hours as we talk about what's next for Grail Games. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.